So how to identify these subpopulations? Now it is possible to identify. Previously, it was not possible to identify because of the developments in the analytical tools. Previously, what we had when I was even working in IVR in 97, 99, I was having only this microscope, simple microscope to see like this. That's what the facility at that time we had. So with that only we have assessed all this. So now the time has come, then CASA came, and till this CASA is not accepted for fertility prediction. It's just a machine which gives a kinematic information about the sperm motility, that's all. Then we enter into the kinematics and some of the membrane integrity based on the routine test, host, BCMPT and other things. And after that, we entered into the flow cytometry. So what flow cytometry gives? So almost every sperm function, what I have shown, every sperm characteristics, what I have shown, all these things can be quantified in a less amount of time. Subpopulations, name any subpopulations, it can be quantified. Even maturational changes and whatnot, name anything that can be quantified. I will get into the example how this shift is resulting into the Simon analysis. Now, if you see, the first one I have given, I have given you here two examples. First, you take, normally we go for eosin-nigrosin staining method. And as per the eosin-nigrosin method, an ejaculate is classified as 80% live spermatozoa. Yes, good. It's very good. So it is being processed. And the same sample, if you go into the fluorescent microscopy using the CyberPI or CFD API, which I will be explaining a little later, so then it comes to 55% live. And once you use flow cytometry, the fact is only 35% are live. Because these two techniques, fluorescent microscopy and flow cytometry, can differentiate a third population that is called the moribund population, which a normal eosin-nigrosin cannot diagnose. And this population is very important because this population is detrimental to the living sperm as well. So if a semen contains more amount of moribund spermatozoa, it is bound to have a negative effect on the living population, carry them away also, means towards death. So that's how normal traditional semen evaluation, what it gives, and advanced semen evaluation, what it gives. Now you know, in front of you it is there. Second, example 2. Because these are all the normal techniques which are used in RSA, routine semen evaluation. And here I have given a GMSA photo. Any semen stations, IVC, go and talk to person. Always, if you see intact acrosome is above 85 or 90, 95, 92, 87, 84. But what happens? Are we assessing really acrosome reacted or acrosome damaged? You see, when we go for fluorescent microscopy, from 85 to 40%. This test is very tricky because if you use FITC PNA, your interpretation is different. If you use FITC PSA, your interpretation is different. PSA bounds to the inner membrane. That means acrosome reacted only will fluorescence. PNA binds to outer membrane, mannose and galactose. I will come little later. So in that, interpretation is totally different. But here, the main thing is you have to permeabilize sometimes. That's how PI takes more, and that's how the percent intact comes down, 40%. When you use flow cytometry, you visualize 4 population. But if you see the live acrosome intact is 60%. It is good. 85, 40, 60. So the variability accounted by the procedure that we are using can be minimized when we use high throughput machines like flow cytometry. Why flow cytometry? It is possible to analyze large number of spermatozoa and using multiple parameters. So the repeatability, that is very important. The repeatability of the assay using flow cytometry is hardly reached by any other technique. It is CI is less than 1%. But all these lucrative wordings and all the garnishing wordings are not much important. The thing is, very important is the belief. Nevertheless, one must keep in mind that the aim of flow cytometry is to achieve a deeper and more precise understanding of sperm physiology, and one has to have a thorough knowledge on spermatozoa to make the meaningful inference. Otherwise, garbage in, garbage out. So what can be assessed using flow cytometry? Structural integrity, I have made into the group, not I have listed elaborately 30, 40 parameters. Just make a group. Sperm concentration, yes. Sperm concentration can also be assessed. For example, take a specified volume of the semen, maybe 10 microliter, 20 microliter, 30 microliter, and whatever the fluid that you are using for acquiring, and then you calculate how much is the spermatozoa, how much is the events there, and interpret, extrapolate into the over per ml volume. But this is constrained by something. First and foremost thing is, flow cytometry counts anything which goes as an event. It may not be spermatozoa. It may be egg yolk. That is one thing. But this can be overcome by adding a DNA-specific dye H33342. It stains all the DNA cells. So all the H33342 fluorescence that is of spermatozoa, we can make a region and then found out. Second thing is we have to process the spermatozoa for using in the flow cytometry. So washing 2 times. So there is every possibility that we may lose some of the spermatozoa. That's how sperm concentration using flow cytometry is not fully accepted as well. Viability, yes. You can use CyberPA or CFDA. I have one slide. What are the dyes to be used? I will explain there. Viability can be assessed. Plasma membrane integrity. There is a little bit difference between these two. I will explain. Acrosomal integrity, I told you, FITC, PSA, PNA, and FITC concavalin A. All these things can be used for acrosomal integrity. DNA integrity, it is quite interesting and gaining a lot of momentum in animal science. And SCSA, sperm promoting structure assay, is the one assay which is done using flow cytometry for fertility prediction in case of human being. And then what are the sperm functional integrities that we can see? Capacitation, cryocapacitation, CTC, chlorotetracycline, or cryocapacitation. If you want to use, you can use CTC as well as PTP, that is anti-phosphotyrosine antibody, because tyrosine phosphorylation takes place during the process of cryocapacitation. Apoptosis, annexin 5, caspase, there are many other lists there, YoPro. And if you use those probes, sperm apoptosis can be identified. Oxidative stress, there are a lot of markers. Markers are coming into the market to identify the sperm ROS, and all these can be quantified. Superoxide, that is separately nitrogen reactive oxygen species, and then reactive nitrogen species. All these things can be quantified individually based on the marker that which you are using. Lipid peroxidation, Body-PY is the one simple dye which can be used to identify the lipid peroxidation. And mitochondrial status, there is a list of dye which you can use for identification of mitochondrial status. So all these things can be assessed. So these are all the common used fluorophore DNA. Irrespective of anything, only DNA particle is there, DNA is there, it will stay. But what CFDA does is, CFDA, carboxyfluorescent diacetate, gets into the living cells, and it is a non-fluorescent. It has to be acted upon by the esterase. When the cell is metabolically active, the esterase acts on this and then cleave the diacetate. So carboxyfluorescent is the pigment that comes out, and that gives the green fluorescence. That means metabolically the cell is active, viable. Cyber says yes, membrane is intact. That's what. That is the minute difference between these two. YoPro, it never enters into the normal cells. Once membrane destabilization takes place in the spermatozoa, it gets into and then gives a fluorescence. Ethidium homodimer and PI almost it works in the same. Ethidium is a little bit carcinogenic. That's why many persons do not use that. Acrosomal integrity, I told, FITC PNA, FITC PSA, and then concavalin A. They bind to the mannose and the galactose of the sugar moieties in the acrosomal area. And the pattern of our PSA is different, PNA is different, as I explained earlier. DNA integrity can be assessed. SCSA, sperm chromatin structure assay, that is using acridine orange. Acridine orange, in a normal sperm DNA, it gives a green fluorescence. I will show the flow plot, how it comes a little later. And once it is denatured, then it shifts into red area. So the green to red or green to orange fluorescence ratio, that gives the DFI, that is DNA fragmentation index. Chromomycin A3, it competes with the protein deficiency. You know very well, when the sperm is getting matured, histones are replaced with transition proteins and then proteins. Once the protein is not burned properly or it is insufficient, then this dye CMA3 competes for that, and then it gives a fluorescence. So we have that deficiency we can assess. So mitochondrial status, there is a list: rhodamine 123, mitotracker or mitosox defect that is being used, and JC1 is constantly used. JC1 is also, for example, if it is in a singlet, in a low concentration like MMP, then it gives a green fluorescence. When it aggregates, then it comes, when it is a monomer, it is a green. When it aggregates, it shifts its fluorescence into red. So assessment of this ratio will give what is the mitochondrial membrane potential. And apoptosis, myrocinin 540, early membrane scrambling. And annexin, because you know very well, during the process of capacitation or apoptosis, exterioration of phosphatidylserine takes place in the lipid membrane. So this annexin detects that, and that's how it helps in assessment of the apoptosis. YoPro, as I told you earlier, it do not enter into the normal cell, but once it gets into, then it gives a fluorescence. Then lipid peroxidation. Lipid peroxidation is done by Body-PY, ROS, mitosox, and dihydroethylene. Mitosox is very good. Mitosox, actually, it is not in the red color as of before entering into the cell. But once it enters and combined with the oxidation superoxide, and then it is replaced by the superoxide, then it gives a red color. And that is being detected. And that's how it says the mitochondrial status of ROS,